Hi, and welcome back to my channel, where I'm going to provide an update on things that are happening with respect to this channel and a few things that I've also been made aware of. Firstly though, I want to thank everyone who's watched all of the Tanares RPG videos. That series has done relatively okay, and once I got to the more RPG specific videos, it seemed to increase in views. I also want to thank all of the Dungeons & Dragons and Fantasy Grounds Unity viewers on this channel for being patient with me and getting back into the D&D specific tutorials. The Tanares RPG series was all recorded on the same day, specifically in mid-February. And in case you hadn't noticed, by the time I got to the end of that series, I was struggling with being able to actually put some volume behind my voice. During this time frame, I was beginning to have issues talking, mainly with my vocal cords being able to make any sort of sound. I'm not entirely certain why. I suspect it was related to some flu or cold, but the doctors themselves aren't even sure why it's been happening. However, I believe that in combination with the excitement of finally being able to get the chance to open those rewards and record those videos, and the flu itself or cold or whatever the heck it was, it put me in a position where I lost the ability to talk for a good week and a bit. However, because of that, I've been unable to record videos until just recently, and that's because that issue seemed to persist. And I figured the 12 weeks it would take to publish all of the Tanares videos would give me enough time to recover and start recording again. Unfortunately, it turns out I'm wrong. However, I have been able to get in to see a specialist, and it looks like I'm using the muscles around my vocal cords to talk as opposed to my diaphragm, which is the normal way to force air through your vocal cords when you're talking. We both believed that it occurred at that time where I recorded that long series of videos, and unfortunately I transitioned from using my diaphragm to the vocal cords because I was already struggling to have the ability to speak. Effectively, this caused me to get too exhausted during recording periods, and especially when I have to record some of those longer videos. And as such, it's going to take a lot more effort for me to get those recordings done. After a short discussion, it does look like I will be getting referred to a vocal coach in order to try to resolve this issue. So until then, there's going to be a few changes on my channel. But I'll get to those in a moment. There are a few things I want to bring up first. And one of the first things relates to an incident that happened near the end of May and the first week of June. I was effectively forced to evacuate out of my house for just about a week in length, and that was due to one of the largest forest fires in the region where I live that affected a wide area around where I live. This had the unfortunate side effect of not being able to finish off the editing for all of the remaining videos I had for the Tanares RPG series, and that was all due to the fact that I was away from my home office. I did have access to another computer, but it literally just has enough capabilities to act as a gateway to the internet. Handle email, stuff like that. It's not really set up to do anything else, and it really doesn't have the oomph to edit all of the videos that I needed to go through and finish editing. The problem was my desktop was packaged and bubble wrapped, and I was not going to run the risk of actually setting it up and having to change places again, because we had to move a couple of times while we were waiting to return to our home. On the good news side of things, my family and I did get very lucky. The first responders and all of the fighter fighters and other people that were involved managed to keep the fires from spreading into my area. But unfortunately, others were not so fortunate. Sadly, a large number of people did lose their homes. There were about 18,000 people displaced in the areas that I live. I think that's what the total was. And about 150 of those households lost their homes. On the positive side, my house seems to be relatively unaffected. I managed to avoid most of the smoke damage. There's a little bit of smoke damage in one of the rooms, but it's not enough to worry about. It's just I literally have to wash everything down. It's like a couple of whiffs of smoke got in and settled in for the week that we were away kind of thing. Other than that, everything seems to be in pretty good condition here at the house. This will allow me to slowly get back into the groove and hopefully start moving some of these videos forward again as long as the vocal issue is resolved. With respect to the Ride for Cancer fundraiser, I have managed to surpass my goal. And I do know that there's additional money that's going to be going into that fund a little bit later on in the year. So I am well on my way to being able to complete that fundraiser. However, there is one thing that has been a problem, and that has been our weather. Since I've been home, for instance, it has literally rained about 95% of the time that I have been back. And I don't mean just light drizzles, I mean rain. Water drops the size of golf balls, pretty much. I don't have the gear for that kind of weather, and I'm pretty certain that because I'm riding on an older bike still at the moment, even though I do have a newer one, I'm still working on getting that one fixed up. It's not conducive for that particular bike to be in that kind of weather. Additionally, those few days where we have had clear weather, I might as well have been sitting inside of an oven. mainly because they were too hot to complete those rides in. They were over 35 degrees Celsius, and I think it was like 80% humidity, so it was extremely excessive. I do have some gear for that, but not for those extremely hot days. So when it was cooler, I was able to get out, but unfortunately, with the way that things have been happening outside of the quote-unquote channel for me, I have been extremely busy, and the times that I can get out to do the rides is roughly during the hottest point of the day. So it's been very problematic to actually get some training in. I have managed to finally break the 25-kilometer barrier in the sense of how far I can bike ride this year. Usually by this time, I'm well above 32 to 40 some odd kilometers and on my way to working towards 50 kilometers. But due to the lack of being able to get on that bike, I literally just this weekend past managed to do a 25-kilometer ride in, and then the other day I managed to get another in. So I know I'm good for that particular distance. I am still aiming to try to do the 50K, but I do have a time limit on being able to determine whether I can actually do that. There's a particular point in time where I have to make the decision, do I do the 25 or the 50? So I will let you know as soon as I myself have figured that part out. There is still some time left before I can actually figure out whether I can do that kind of a distance or not before I have to make that decision, though. So I'm hoping that the weather starts to cooperate a little bit and that I can get out onto the trails a little bit more frequently. However, I do want to thank everyone who has managed to contribute to that fundraiser. And if you're still interested in making a donation, you will find the link to both the fundraiser video as well as a direct link to the donation site in the description below. One of the new things that I was made aware of is that Dragori Games has reached out to me once again with respect to a new Kickstarter that they have on the go called Tanares Adventures Ultimate Edition. While the contents of this Kickstarter are not directly related to 5th edition, a lot of the material that they publish with their games is completely compatible with it, and it can be used for any of the 5th edition material. As such, I've agreed to mention this Kickstarter during this channel update. You will find a link in the description below, and the project has already been funded and in fact blew past that during the first day. At the time of this recording, the total amount that they have managed to raise so far is $1.5 million Canadian, and are well on their way to hitting $1.6 million. There are a lot of stretch goals that have already been achieved, as well as a couple of quest-specific rewards that have also been achieved, so it might be a good idea to take a look at the Kickstarter if you're interested. However, while this Kickstarter is not RPG specific, it does focus on the board game element of it, and it will include a number of miniatures that are capable to be used with respect to 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons. They've also created a new storage system to handle the ability to store both the Arena of the Contest stuff, the Tanares Adventures stuff, all into larger, more compactable boxes and a little bit better for storage with respect to that. So if you already contributed to the previous Kickstarters and you're just looking for a better storage system, this might be the Kickstarter for you. If you're an older pledge for their previous Kickstarters, you're still going to find plenty with this one to make it worth your while. However, if you are brand new to it, you literally have the whole spectrum of options, with the exception of the returning backers options, to actually pick up everything associated with the original board game as well as the adventures, or the Tanares Adventures expansion for it. And I highly recommend you do check it out if you're curious. With respect to how I am going to be changing things for this particular channel, I need to make you aware of a few things that are going to take place. The first is with respect to the content that I'm planning to publish. A lot of it is taking far longer to script out and prepare, partially due to time, but also because a lot of it is much more ambitious than the other material that I've produced thus far. And there is a level of consistency that I want to ensure is retained between each of those various videos that I'm preparing. As a result of that, it is definitely taking me probably a good 1 to 3 weeks to finish a single script at this particular point in time. What this means for my channel is that I'm going to be reducing my publishing frequency to about once every 2 weeks, most likely the first week of the month, and then again mid-month. I'm not entirely certain yet if this change is going to be a permanent change, because it depends on how the channel grows once these new series come out. And that is mainly due to the fact that I am coming to the end of the class-specific series, and they're relatively quick to prepare the scripts for. However, when I run out of those, the longer duration scripts are literally the only thing I have left at this particular point in time. However, this will allow me to better prepare for those videos and get the scripts complete in time to be able to record them. And as I've mentioned before, I do this as a hobby, so my out of social media time completely dictates how frequently I get hobby time to be able to do anything for this channel. And if you look on the Fantasy Grounds forum post, I've already planned out the next series of character class videos that I'm going to go through and update and bring them forward with respect to how Fantasy Grounds currently does things. Specifically, the lead video for the fighter class was just recently published, and I've scripted out the next video for that series, and we'll hopefully have the next script completed in the next few days. However, coming to the end of that particular side of that series is making me a little bit sad. I've literally been doing that series now for 2+ years, almost 3 years at the time of this recording. And the unfortunate side effect is it does not look like we're getting any new classes or class specializations with any of the planned 5th edition material that is scheduled to come out over the next year or so. Which means it will conclude that series unless I go back and rehash all of the videos to bring them forward to the current state of how Fantasy Grounds looks. As that is almost over 200 videos, I think, that could take some time to do. On top of that, I also have some additional requests from Smiteworks that I'm looking at trying to complete for them as well. So I'm going to have to be careful on not focusing too much time on one versus the other in order to ensure that their tasks also move forward. With respect to some of that new content, some is going to be outside of the realm of Fantasy Grounds Unity, and that's so that I can expand on the portfolio within this channel. My primary focus is still going to be Fantasy Grounds Unity, but I'm going to be sprinkling in other material just to provide a little bit of variety. For instance, I've reached out to a content creator within the D&D community, and they've agreed to allow me to record and publish videos on several module conversions that I will be completing for personal use. This will spawn a new series on the channel showing that what I'm legally allowed to show with respect to those module conversions and how they work. This might also include some streaming while I go through and work on these conversions, with the eye on mixing a little bit of the pre-recorded stuff in with the stream stuff to be able to upload videos to complete the series out. That series will be primarily geared towards Dungeons & Dragons GMs, but the overall process should work for any of the rule sets, though I do recommend players limit their exposure to the contents of that series, simply because it might include a few spoilers if you happen to have a DM who also owns those modules and they themselves have done the conversion. However, with the streaming side of it, I have zero experience there, so it's going to take me some time to get some practice in, as well as figure out how it all works. So please be patient and please be kind. Though I do plan on doing this on YouTube, I'm not entirely certain if I will also do it on Twitch. I do have an account there, but I primarily use that as a viewer account rather than a publishing account. I do have some free time coming up that I'm going to be using to experiment and learn how to do that, in addition to also going through and trying to completing several scripts for some of the more extensive content that I've tried to create so far. Specifically, the series that I'm referring to is the Content Creator series, and if you recall, I wanted this series to be completely scripted for two main reasons. The first was to ensure that the information is consistent from the start to the end of the series, and is a true representation of the process of creating content for Dungeons & Dragons within Fantasy Grounds Unity, although technically you could apply it to other rule sets. The second was to ensure it won't stall out like the much longer, more in-depth series I did when I first started this channel that kind of dwindled off, which unfortunately did a bit of a disservice to you, the viewers, although at that particular point in time I wasn't convinced I was actually going to get viewers, so I didn't really have the right mindset for it. Some of the other content is also going to branch out into gaming, but I'm going to try to limit that to just those games that relate to 5th edition in some way, at least for now. I intend to record my playthrough of the Baldur's Gate 3 series when it's released, though I do have the beta version now and I've played just enough of it to get familiar with it, and that's only so that I don't look totally noobish when I start playing that game. And just to be clear, I am a gamer, but I am not an experienced gamer. I don't do that professionally. I literally just play games for the fun of it. And there's another game out there called Solasta, Crown of the Magister that I've been kind of thinking about recording. It is 5th edition based with respect to its rule sets, although I think they've created a lot of their own material. I believe it was a Kickstarter initially, but I'm not entirely certain yet whether I'm going to or not. I've run into some problems with that game that have just kind of upset me quite a bit with respect to being able to complete it, specifically a green dragon that I can't seem to kill. But in any event, I haven't decided yet whether I want to record anything for that. That might just be one of the things I test with streaming just to get used to that process. And if there's interest, I might decide to add that to the channel. So just let me know in the comments below as to whether you want to see something like that or not. And finally, I'm still looking into expanding into other rule sets. However, as I said earlier, my hobby time has been quite hard to pin down of late, so I've had very little time to do much more than check out what those rule sets are at this particular point in time, though I haven't made a decision on any of them yet. And the last thing that I want to bring up in this video, and I don't really do this that often with respect to my channel, is I would really like to see if we can get this channel up to 5,000 subs as my next subscriber goal. To do that, however, I'm going to need the community's help to help spread the word, in a respectful manner, obviously, for anyone who might benefit from this channel. This could be letting new DMs who are just getting into Fantasy Grounds Unity know about the channel, and if you see a post about them having issues with it, send them this way. There may be something here that can help them. And even their players are going to benefit to a certain degree, because a large amount of the content on my channel is about how to set up the characters, although some of the methods are a little bit on the dated side. I'm hoping to try to find a way to update that a little bit. And if enough people do that, over time, we will get that goal. Another thing that I would like to see is continued discussion within the comments section. Anything that's related to the video or the topic at hand is perfect for it. Even if there's a question, I do my best to make sure that I try to reply to all, if not most, comments. I think there's only a couple that I haven't yet had a chance to reply to. But I do eventually try to get back to those comments that I have missed. Luckily, there's a dashboard that shows me which ones I've missed, so that's great. And by making use of the comment section, as well as the like and the dislike button, you potentially help to expose all of the videos that you're commenting on or clicking that like button on to others who might be interested as well. So it all helps the channel. But as I've said in the past, I don't push that within the videos. And that's the only reason why you see such a small subscription reminder at the bottom left corner near the beginning and near the end of the video. That's it. That's all I'm going to really do to push it. The only time I really bring it up is during these updates. And I do that intentionally because mostly the people who actually watch this are only going to be subscribers. If we do manage to get the channel up over 5,000 subscribers, then I will revisit my interest in being able to use channel memberships. And that way I can begin to provide those layers for all of my viewers who want to be able to see that content a little bit earlier than everybody else. However, that does bring us to the end of this video. I want to thank you for watching, and if you made it to the end, thank you even more. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video.